What is the Department of Higher Education's position on the latest university chaos? Are students prepared to swap violence and damaged property with dialogue? Are university protests free of political influence? And what will it take to restore the normal running of tertiary institutions? What time is it? It is question time. Welcome to Question Time. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Academic programs at several tertiary institutions have been continuously disrupted since the academic year commenced. A building was torched at the University of Northwest's Mafikeng campus, while a rugby match was disrupted by protesters at the University of the Free State. Classes at the University of Pretoria are back on track amid a high security presence. For his part, Higher Education and Training Minister Dr. Nzimande has pointed out at what he calls a fringe element to be behind the violence on some campuses. A reminder that we are live, therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at Question Time. For my guest today, Thandeka Mabona. Thandeka is an SABC education researcher. And from our Pretoria studios, Gwebingundla Onde is the Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training. Before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at this clip by Dr. Nzimande.
What they are doing at the moment is to assess the extent of the damage. And then out of that, once they've got fully assessed, they will then be in a position to know when that university, that campus can be able to reopen. That is what we are urging then. The rest of those who are still not keen to go back to class to say, let's go back to class whilst continuing with the dialogue of addressing all the issues that are on the table. In any case, we agreed on processes on virtually all the current issues at the summit that I convened in October last year.
Okay, that's the minister himself there. But let me start, firstly, perhaps welcoming both of you, Thandeka and the DG there in Pretoria. DG, welcome to Question Time. What's the latest, perhaps before we even go deep into the show today, the state of affairs in as far as the tertiary institutions are concerned?
No, thank you very much, sir. The resumption of academic studies actually started yesterday, and today it was a continuation in respect to resuming all academic studies and offering of programs in the institutions that were affected by protests or violent protests recently.
And what is the department's attitude towards the grievances that have been raised by the student formations or students in general?
No, the grievances that students are raising are actually receiving adequate attention from the institutions, individually and collectively. And where, in certain instances, we would have seen that there is no move in addressing this or that particular demand or issue which is really critical and necessary. We have actually intervened and engaged with the institutions in respect to those matters. You would recall that on the 16th of April 2015, the minister convened a session with all former Afrikaans institutions in the country and discussed quite at length the question of language, which is actually creating a barrier to access to education. And after those engagements, institutions have actually attended to the matter. To such an extent, to date, there is not a single student who is barred of access because of offerings in a particular language that one would not understand.
But DG, perhaps a quick one. Is there a position, and as far as the department is concerned, on the issue of Afrikaans? What is your standpoint there?
No, Afrikaans is one of the 11 languages of South Africa. And that is enshrined in the Constitution. And ours is to uphold and support the development of each and every one of our languages. And that is the constitutional obligation of everybody in the country.
But then the students wouldn't have gone to the extent that they have if you were doing that.
No, for instance, if you take the University of Pretoria, programs are offered in English, not in Afrikaans.
So are you saying that they didn't have reason to toy?
The university is saying all programs are offered in English, and there is not a single student who is being lectured in a language that he or she wouldn't understand. Afrikaans and Sepedi are being used in some programs and remedial work in tutorials and mentoring. Okay. And the institution commissioned, an investigation on this matter, and recommendations were tabled, and the Senate has adopted those recommendations. And those recommendations are saying lectures should be conducted in English, and Sepedi and Afrikaans should be used as support materials in intermediate work and activities of the institutions.
Okay.
And on the 18th of March, the council of the university is meeting to look at that recommendation. And currently, all programs are offered in English. That's the account the university is giving.
Who do you believe, the students or the university?
We believe the university, and we have done our own investigation, and indeed we have established that there is not a single student who is not able to undertake the studies he or she wants because of a language.
So we've been lied to here, DG?
Certainly, it's not correct into saying that students are being taught in Afrikaans which they do not understand.
Okay, hold it there. Reminder that you can call us and air your views. The number to dial is 089 11042100, 089 And indeed, students, you must tell us, why did you lie to us? Why are you saying that things are only done in Afrikaans there? Yet the DG is here saying no ways. So, Ms. Maman.
Yes.
Where did this all begin?
You know what, Mpho, I have observed that South Africa has a culture of reacting as compared to... In African culture, we do say that we should prevent. Prevention is better than cure all the time. But we have seen Leicester, for example, before we can take a big hint into transformation in the Stellenbosch University. We shouldn't have to wait for that. We have seen riots of financial exclusion before we can now be aware of what is happening in South Africa. I think that's not good at all. We need to have a dialogue before the problems, before the chaos. For an example, in the research that I've conducted, I have conversed with the universities, and they have been saying that actually the funding that they're getting from government has not kept in line with the inflation. So they are forced to raise their fees. Hence, you've seen the Fees Must Fall campaign.
Okay. David, you're calling us from Pretoria. Welcome.
Yes, hello, sir.
Yes.
No, I think the DG, what he's talking about, I think he doesn't know what he's talking about. I was studying in the University of Pretoria, ne?
Okay.
So what is happening there? You will be listening in English, then the lectures will be done in English, ne?
Okay.
And then immediately an African student will ask a question in Afrikaans.
Oh.
And then he will be replied in that Afrikaans, ne?
Okay.
2. In the exams are in such that in English and in Afrikaans. So those African students, they are writing the exams in Afrikaans. Whereas you cannot write it like the exams in your own languages, for example, Xhosa, Zulu, or Sotho. So the DG, what he investigated, now the only problem is that he doesn't want to listen to the students. I've been studying there. This is happening. They must stop just talking things that they do not know. They must ask the student, go there. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. DG, quick one there.
No, thank you. In respect to this, on the 21st of February,
Yes.
the Vice-Chancellor of the institution, Professor Dilarey, clarified this matter to us because we went quite deeper into it. And what he said, and it's in writing,
Yes.
that at the present moment, all classes are in English, with some undergraduate programs offered in both English and Afrikaans. This means that no student has a barrier to access because of Afrikaans. I'm talking about something which is happening in this current academic year, because we are quite firm into saying that no language should be used as a means to discriminate or deny access any student.
Okay. DG, that's fine. Now, what are the students saying? Let's start with the University of Pretoria. Yeah.
Mpho, look, the University of Pretoria students are saying that some of the laboratories and the libraries and other forms that they need to use in the building actually still have Afrikaans names on them. So you'll have a statue that is going to be used for biology, for an example. Everything there will be named in Afrikaans, for an example.
Oh, okay.
How are they supposed to understand that then? It looks like the university has a front kind of a thing to say that, no, we are communicating in Isipedi, we are communicating in English, but that is not implemented. So that is where the department should come in. They should actually check implementation, because talking alone and having something on paper is another thing. But if you go to the university, if you go on site, then you will see the reality.
Okay, Zuzu, you're in KZN. Oh, have we lost Zuzu there? Okay, Zuzu, unfortunately we lost you there. But the number to dial, 089-110-4210, and we are taking your calls. And I'm so interested to hear from the students themselves at University of Free State, University of Pretoria. Let's hear what you have to say. What are your experiences there? Do you walk into a class and they greet you in English, but the entire lecture is in Afrikaans? As it would appear, that's what others have claimed all along. And then you also have the University of Free State.
Yes. We have seen a number of people saying Professor Jonathan Jansen should step down. Remember that the history of South Africa when it comes to the University of Free State is another thing. I mean, we are very fresh wounded by the incident that happened there. When was it? I think it was in 2008. So that is still very painful in our hearts. And then the rugby game happens. And then how are we supposed to feel about that? So transformation needs to be a dialogue between the two, because it cannot be enforced on people who don't want to transform, So I think we should have a dialogue of transformation and then agree to transform, really.
Okay. Well, my question though is, why do people start battles which they don't want to stand up for? Why do you start a fight and then run away when you are, challenged? The number to dial 089-110-4210. So did Francois in the Eastern Cape.
110-4210. So did Francois in the... Hi, Mpho. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Francois.
Great show, man. I enjoy your show.
Thank you so much.
Mpho.
Yeah.
First and foremost, your guest in the studio there.
Yes.
Is a born free. The solution to the problem that are there in South Africa right now, I think the born frees should come together, hold hands, and say, man, we are in a democratic South Africa, and we are brothers and sisters of the same country.
Yes.
And then there would be peace. And if there's any problem with the leadership, the lecturers, then they should actually stand as one, join hands, be resolute on things, and tackle the problem head on. That is it. That is one issue. I don't think that the language is actually the problem here. Here, it's a kind of, if you read between the lines and it speaks louder than anything else, it's actually a racial thing.
Yeah.
It would not actually augur well for the country if there's this tension between, black and white and against black and that thing.
Yes.
That should not be the case, especially in our institutions of learning. I watched also the torching of the university where I come from in Mafikeng.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, Mafikeng has been actually under the erstwhile Bophuthatswana.
Correct.
The way we didn't have this tension between black and whites and stuff. I don't know. Maybe there's something else that's going on.
Yeah, no. It's
and that is a demon. I think so.
Yes.
I think in there, what should happen, they should actually call unto God and help for call for assistance from above.
Francois?
I think that is now Mafikeng and so on, because that can never be a racial kind of a problem, because we enjoyed that kind of freedom, and there was no such a thing like apartheid or whatever we put the blame on.
In
and that is actually the crux of it. So there must be something else, some other force.
Correct.
And we have to lay our hand on that. Thank you, Mpho.
Thank you very much for that call. Well,
you know what? I would like to see a South Africa that is like that, where we all hold hands and we are happy about each other. But you know what? It's very, very unfair for a child who is from a quintile 1 or 2 school in Limpopo, and he has to learn English actually in the higher education sector. Now this person, English is a second language, and they're still struggling with that English. But now Afrikaans is imposed on them. How fair is that? How am I going to pass?
DG, is there a way that you are going to monitor the implementation of this policy, which you have on paper and which the rector has committed to on paper as well?
I think what would be important is that in all areas of transgression, in respect to the implementation of policies that are inclusive of everybody, if we would be given the report, examples of those transgressions, how they manifest themselves, would be more effective than just making a blanket statement. Because if you are saying, my access is bad because programs are offered in this language, and when you investigate that, you find that it's not actually correct. Whilst perhaps there may be other pertinent aspects of perhaps frustrating the learning by a particular student. The only way then that could be assistive of all of us, it's when we know those particular details in which all these things that are discriminatory are manifesting themselves, and we'll be able to intervene. We have done that in many instances, and we're able to correct it. And secondly, I think what we are also really appealing for, on these issues, let us engage in institutional structures with respect and with a view of finding a solution. What I think is problematic, it's when we impose what we want to see happening violently. We are not a violent nation, and I think we have to do everything possible, all of us, to ensure that we resist temptation of resorting to violence in resolving our problems.
Okay. DG, are you worried that there seems to be politics, and I'm talking about serious, hardcore politics, that are playing a role in all this?
That's what the institutions are actually saying. They are saying here it's competing political parties, and they continue to recycle issues. You resolve this, they recycle, and they compete in recycling issues. That's what Free State is saying. That's what the University of Pretoria is saying. That's what all these institutions are saying. And they are making an appeal to all political parties to please leave students alone so that they are able to engage on pertinent issues that are confronting them away from their political agendas.
Well, I'm not so sure if that is possible. Are students going to be left alone? I mean, they have their own structures that are affiliated to political organizations.
They do. But you know what, Mpho, I agree with the DJ on this one. Violence is not going to solve anything. If you can look at the stats, actually millions are being lost by universities in structural damage. Remember that the bus was torched in Wits recently. Libraries are being torched. It's like in South Africa, we have this culture of saying, if I'm angry, then I'm going to destroy something. Yeah. But remember that before we can take care of your fees, we will need to buy that bus that you burned. We will need to rebuild that structure that you burned. And that is not going forward, really.
Well, I saw some students...
Yeah, if I may just come in here.
Okay, DG.
For instance, the management at the University of Free State is actually saying what is making difficult to resolve all these problems is the competing demands from different political quarters that change all the time.
So they would say what? They would say, okay, we need white bread today. You give them white bread tomorrow. They say we need it with butter.
We need it with butter, or this white bread. No, get it from ShopRite instead of Pick and Pay.
Okay. All right, DG, we are about to wrap up. Perhaps let me just give you closing remarks here.
What we are really appealing to all political leaders, faith and community leaders, as well as management of university students, we have to engage on these matters peacefully, with respect, with a view of looking for lasting solutions.
Okay.
Violence has never led to any resolution of any matter.
Okay, thank you very much, DG. Let me take the last caller. Cizo, you're very lucky, and very briefly, please. Cizo?
Yes, hello?
Yes, go ahead, quickly.
No, I just want to say I just want to say to the DG and the entire leadership of the university of the higher education department that they need to engage the students, because students are the people who are affected here. They go around engaging the vice chancellors and engaging all the people that are not supposed to be engaged because they are sitting in air-conditioned offices. They do not understand what students are going through in those lecture rooms. Now, the DG needs to come back in question time. We can be very happy if he can come back with a serious and truly investigated information, because what he's saying right now to the nation is totally incorrect and it's totally lies. It is an uninvestigated investigation. Now, the DG, together with the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Nzimande, they need to make sure that they engage the students, because the problem we're facing in institutions of higher learning, the problem of racism, the problem of discrimination, and so forth. The problem started when South Africans forgave the people who did not ask for forgiveness.
We have run out of time. Let's close with you. Let me give you closing remarks. Do you think this is going to end anytime soon?
I think it should end. Mpho, remember that we have first years who are adapting to the curriculum, who are adapting to the new environment, who are adapting to everything. Everything is new to them. And what about them, really? They have to learn. We have to get qualifications.
Okay. Thank you very much for the time. DG, unfortunately, we have run out of time indeed. That was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. Have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.